Making a video game, how hard could it be? And what about multiplayer? Despite what I've heard on the internet, I decided to give it a shot. Because I'm not the brightest, I also thought, let's add procedural generation. Spoiler alert, this was a terrible mistake. I wanted to create a horror game, but since I'm not a game designer, I asked myself, what do horror games have? They're dark, feature creepy monsters, and often have a basic gameplay loop of walking around and getting jump scared. I wanted something slightly more complex, not puzzle game complex, but more than just aimless wandering. And so I introduce you to walking around with a purpose. The purpose? Collect all the batteries scattered around the level and return them to a spawn room, while staying alive. To help, you get two tools, a flashlight to light your way, and a stick to push away monsters. Here's the twist, you can only carry one item at a time. This is totally not because I'm lazy and didn't want to make an inventory system, but because it forces you to cooperate with friends, instead of speedrunning the game solo. I chose Unity as my game engine, because it's the only one I know how to use. I started by making a single-player prototype, which involved exploring a procedurally generated maze. But the method I used for generating the maze was super buggy. The algorithm created rooms until it hit the barrier, like another room or the outer wall. Unfortunately, this often didn't work as planned. Rooms would overlap, doorways would lead outside the map, and the generation sometimes broke entirely. My fix was to add a second outer wall, which worked a little bit better, but still had issues. I didn't care much at the time, because I planned to switch to a new method later. In the meantime, I added the basic monster. Its AI consisted of moving towards the player, basically an illusion of intelligence, crammed into 30 lines of code. When I moved on to multiplayer, I had to rewrite all the scripts from scratch. There wasn't much code to begin with, but reworking it still took a long time. I used Fishnet, a free multiplayer solution from the Unity Asset Store, because writing my own multiplayer system wasn't an option. Next, I made 3D models for rooms, interior pieces and other props. I also convinced a friend to create the monster model, because he totally wanted to. He didn't. Then I wrote a script to spawn room interiors and the monster itself. Spawning interiors seemed simple, checked for empty rooms and filled them. Finally, I added the button, which resets the level once all the batteries are collected and returned to the spawn room. But guess what? Interiors would sometimes spawn multiple times in the same room. The monster eye was also dumb, it posed no real threat. And the button randomly decided it had a day off. Naturally, I ignored those issues and added more features, like a flashlight and a stick. The stick was supposed to push the monsters back, but I couldn't get it to work properly, so it just stopped the monsters in place instead. When I thought the game was done, a small but critical issue popped up. The game would crash on the client builds, but work fine in the Unity editor. This forced me to redo everything again. I scrapped procedural generation and switched to a handmade map. For the map, I made a simplified 3D model for the spaceship from Among Us, and scattered batteries, flashlights and monsters around. I also improved the monster AI, making it smarter and slightly faster than the player. Finally, the game worked. The client launched, and I tested it with my friends. The test revealed a few minor bugs and synchronization issues, but I fixed them in a couple days. You can also try this prototype for free on itch.io, link in the description, but it only works on a local network. I might make it work through the internet somewhere in the future, but not right now.